Happy Monday, everybody. We are back for March Madness. You have found Behind the Lines, part of the Lines podcast presented by BetMGM. My name is Steven Andrus, managing editor at thelines.com. Joined, as we always were during football season, but a special March Madness edition by Christian Cipollini, sports trader at BetMGM. In this podcast, we are going to look at, as we record this just hours after Selection Sunday, it is Monday morning, we're going to look at the biggest and most notable line moves from the openers at BetMGM for the first four in the round of 64 games. We're going to look at the public dogs, the Moneyline ticket count, the most popular ones as we get closer to tip-off on Thursday. And lastly, we're going to look at futures liability at BetMGM, the three teams that would cost BetMGM the most money if they were to go on to win the national championship. So first of all, Christian, welcome back. It's great to see you. Are we refreshed after football season? A little break before we get back into the grind here?
Great to be back. Yeah, March Madness, one of the best times of year. Yep, can't wait.
Absolutely love it. I know for both of us, it was just a grind Sunday night, getting the content out, and for you, getting the lines out at the book. So we are here, probably on a little less sleep than we normally are. I'm caffeinated up, though. I'm ready to go. So let's start with that first question I asked you, and it's the biggest and most notable line moves here. We've had the markets open for less than 24 hours now as we record on Monday morning, but what are a couple of the biggest line moves you've seen against the spread for either the first four or the round of 64 games?
Yeah, a few haven't been too big yet, but we'll see a lot more closer as we get to Thursday and Friday. But one of the biggest that we had off the bat was Gonzaga opened close to 26.5 to 27, and they're down to 23.5 now. So one of those bigger spread moves was actually one of our biggest so far.
Interesting. So a 116 matchup is one of the biggest spread moves already. And I will note that our lead writer, Eli Hershkovich, was a little surprised that Georgia State was a 16 seed. This is a program that in years past was seeded higher than this when they made the NCAA tournament. So interesting at least to note that it was a 16 seed off the top here that got some money after the markets opened. What else? Any other teams pop to you here in terms of some early line movement?
Yeah, it's not usual for a 16 seed love there, but we got some. Yeah. A little back and forth one is San Francisco Murray State. We actually opened at Murray State minus 1.5, and then it flipped back to San Francisco minus 1.5, and then we're right back at it, Murray State 1.5. So back and forth so far in this one.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, obviously anybody that follows college basketball knows about Ken Pom. And if you're a casual college basketball fan, you know that Murray State is one of the top 25 ranked teams in the country by the polls. They only have 2 losses this year. But the advanced analytics do maybe like San Francisco a little bit more. So maybe that's a little bit of the reason we saw this line flip from the 7 seed to the 10 seed in this tournament. And it's not completely uncommon when you look at the spreads in years past to see a 10 seed favored over a 7, but it's also not the norm either, right? So we'll see how this plays out. But I think, potentially here we're a couple points on either side, and perhaps the market is telling us that this really is a coin flip game.
Yeah, that does happen a lot with the 7-10. And actually, one of the other ones I was going to highlight is Loyola Chicago Ohio State is actually in a similar boat of the back and forth. And right now we're sitting at a pick 'em between the two right now.
Another situation where the advanced analytics do like Loyola Chicago a little bit better than Ohio State, the 7 seed. But I don't think you can argue that Ohio State might have the best offensive player in that game in E.J. Liddell. But the defensive metrics for Ohio State are just abysmal. So, and we obviously, maybe a little bit of a mix there, Christian, of both sharp money and maybe some public money coming in on Loyola with their success in years past in the NCAA tournament. Your thoughts on Loyola there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely could be. There's a lot of different factors. Ohio State is going to take more money just off the big name, but like you said, Loyola Chicago's had some success in the past, so people like to take that again. Sister Jean love.
Yeah, you gotta love the Sister Jean. She's going to be all over the TV, I'm sure, from tip to final buzzer again. So never hurts to bring the good luck charm of Sister Jean over for Loyola Chicago. So One before we move on to the other futures liabilities and the public dogs early on here, I do want to mention BetMGM's got a $10 million bracket challenge going on right now. If you get a perfect bracket, if you come in first and it isn't a perfect bracket, it's still a guaranteed $100,000 prize. You can find that by going to thelines.com right now and clicking on our free March Madness bracket contest article. It'll take you right over to the BetMGM link for that $10 million bracket challenge if you're looking for a shot at some money in a free contest. And with all the uncertainty going on with PayPal and Venmo right now and the risks you're taking putting money into private pools, I think that's a pretty good option for you to go and play over at BetMGM's contest. So Christian, let's move on here to the public dogs. Obviously, every year during the NCAA tournament, there are people lining up to bet on underdogs, not only to cover the spread, but to win outright. So in terms of ticket count in the early going here, what teams are the more popular underdogs?
Yeah, I'll take out some of the 16, 15s because we always get those just because of the nice high odds and people like to take a flyer there. But one of the big ones that we saw right away was Chattanooga versus Illinois. We've definitely taken some Chattanooga money. Could be a combo of the Tennessee players we have, but also I think they're kind of one of those underdogs that people are going to go after.
So as we record this here on Monday around lunchtime, East Coast time, I'm checking the money line here for Chattanooga, and I'm seeing about plus 260 at BetMGM as the 13 seed taking on Illinois. That is not the closer money line that we've seen for another 13 seed with South Dakota State against Providence, but nonetheless, the public seems to be lining up to go against Illinois here, who's had a pretty solid team here over the past couple of years. A 1 seed last year and a top 25 team again this year.
A little shaky, I guess, at the end here for Illinois, and then coming up short last year too. So maybe that's where it's coming from. And I think Chattanooga's kind of gotten a lot of steam in these last couple of weeks rolling up to the tournament.
For sure. Eli Hershkovitz has some thoughts on this matchup in our Discord Q&A. You can find that over in our Discord channel, or we also wrote an article with all the questions we had from that Discord session currently on the homepage of thelines.com. Any other money line underdogs here that are getting a high ticket count?
Yeah, as we were opening games last night, one of the first bets that came through was Vermont money line. So we've seen a decent amount of Vermont money line versus Arkansas as well.
So I think that one is not as big of an underdog as Chattanooga, but still close to that 2-1 mark, plus 185 at BetMGM at the moment. I predict a lot of points in this one. I mean, Arkansas is going to run. Vermont's a pretty good offense as well. So I think we're going to see a high scoring affair in that one. Any others before we move on to futures here, Christian, that stand out to you?
Yeah, there's a couple mixed bags there where a lot of these games are kind of 1.5, 2 point spreads. So they're not giant underdogs, but we have seen a little bit of Marquette money come in too, which I kind of thought was a little surprising against North Carolina. Usually you expect a little more North Carolina money, but just from the name alone, but we have seen some Marquette money come through.
Sure, yeah, the 8-9 matchup, Tar Heels the 8 seed, Marquette the 9 seed. So if you look at the current money line, plus 120 for Marquette. UNC, another team that has all the talent in the world, but the metrics tell you that they have issues on the defensive side of the ball. And yes, they beat Duke to close out the regular season and spoil Coach K's final game at Cameron Indoor, but you saw in the ACC tournament that the defensive liabilities came back to haunt them yet again against Virginia Tech. So perhaps the reason there. On the flip side, though, Marquette, I guess the tickets are ignoring the recency bias, which is a good thing because you don't want to put too much into the conference tournament. But Marquette laid an egg against Creighton in the Big East tournament. So we'll see how that one plays out for sure. Christian, let's move on to futures and teams that could cut down the nets in New Orleans in early April. Top 3 futures liabilities for you guys as we enter March Madness here.
Yeah, so the biggest team we're trying to avoid this season is Arizona. They're our biggest liability by a decent chunk here. Coupled with the fact that they started pretty high. I think they were 40 to 151 around the start of the season, and now the second favorite to win it all. So we're definitely looking to avoid that.
Yeah, definitely seen some people with 50 to 1. I've even seen maybe even a little higher than that.
Yeah, I think they might have been higher as it went too. And that's going to be the same here with our second highest liability, which is Auburn. In a similar boat there. They started off really high to start the season. We took a lot of bets, and the odds just kind of kept going down and down as the season went on.
And how about your third liability?
And third and final one is Tennessee. So like we mentioned a lot with the Tennessee presence, but yeah, Tennessee is also another one who will hurt the book for sure.
Tennessee got a good draw too. Arizona, if I'm not mistaken though, aren't Tennessee, I could be wrong here off the top of my head, but Tennessee and Arizona in the same region? I got to check that, but that might help you guys in terms of liability. But then Auburn, if they've been struggling a little bit, they did not do well in the SEC tournament. So we'll see how that goes. I am right. Arizona and Tennessee in the same region. So you got to be pretty happy about that draw for your futures liability. That's for sure. So that worked out well. They both in the South region, and then Auburn, the 2 seed in the Midwest, Kansas, the 1 seed in that region. Christian, I don't know about you. I was looking at these. I think the Midwest might be the bracket of death this year. I mean, I'm seeing teams that I thought were vulnerable coming in with Auburn, the 2 seed. Providence, I think, is in here, the 4 seed. Wisconsin, the 3 seed. These are all teams that I was worried about coming in. That's my dark horse Final Four pick. I don't know if it's so much of a dark horse at this point, but the 5 seed Iowa in the Midwest, I think, is going to be a pretty trendy pick to get to the Final Four. And I think the books were hip to it because it's shorter than 5 to 1, I think, for Iowa to get to the Final Four. So they see it too, I think.
Yeah, I've already seen a couple of those out there too. Yeah, we're just starting to get out to make the Elite 8 and Sweet 16 markets. We have to make the Final Four out too as well. So if you see one you like, I can come on down and bet it.
Love it. Just a reminder again before we close up shop to check out BetMGM's $10 million bracket challenge. You can find it at thelines.com right now in our bracket contest posts. $100,000 guaranteed prize to the winner, regardless of whether it's a perfect bracket or not. And Christian, enjoy the madness, man. Thank you so much for joining us again.
No problem. Great. Best time of the year. Enjoy it.
Absolutely love it. For everybody else, all the great content on thelines.com. We have more March Madness content than we have ever had. You can check out the Discord channel. We have a ton of passionate, diehard college hoops fans bouncing betting ideas off of each other, getting feedback. So be sure to check that out as well as we get closer to tip-off here around noon Eastern time on Thursday. For Christian Cipollini, I'm Steven Andrus. Thanks so much for joining us on the Lines Podcast.